Welcome back to The Housing Advocate, the podcast of the Southern Utah Home Builders Association. My name is Stacy Young, and today I'm super excited to be joined by Amanda Pectol, another one of our amazing and dynamic members. Thanks for joining me today, Amanda.
Oh, thanks for having me, Stacy. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah. So, one of the first kind of icebreaker questions I sometimes like to ask people is to tell me about the first house that they built or the first house that they bought. Just kind of their entry into home ownership or home building.
There you go. Well, maybe I'll start with my story at Interstate Homes, basically. Would that be okay?
Absolutely, yeah.
Awesome. So I was hired at Interstate Homes kind of as the design consultant. I'm really good at organizing, right? As a PTA president, I was raising kids, and I've been involved in the Miss Hurricane pageant for decades, really. The keeping track of all the design elements, the selections for pre-solds, and that's kind of where I started.
Okay.
Was given an awesome opportunity at Interstate Homes and really loved that. Kind of worked my way into the financial part of Interstate Homes and then payroll, and then we had some changes there, and it ended up being that I was an easy fix just for me to kind of take over with direction from the owners group, which was Chase Stratton from our parent corporation, Interstate Rock Products. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of where my start was. My first really exciting, because I kind of just stepped in while I was kind of already doing the design part of most of the homes, but my first parade home that I really had the chance to, this is where I'm doing it. And I want to say probably my role in Interstate Homes is construction operations manager. Okay. So I've got great superintendents. We kind of do things a little different. We have a family member, Kelly Jorgensen, who takes it from very beginning of the home build to basically rough-in, sheetrock, insulation. He takes it a little bit further than that. And then we have Neil Walker, who is our other super, who takes it to finish. Oh, and so we kind of separate it that way. There's challenges and benefits of doing it that way, but that's kind of how we do it. And so I help the guys kind of do that, and we get the plans ready, do all the permits anyway. So I do a lot of paperwork more than the actual building, but I can definitely answer any questions that you need. It's always funny to me when we go into meetings where people are like, they're asking all these questions, and they always look at the guys. Because I don't, supposedly I'm not supposed to, all the things. So that's kind of a fun, I get a lot of enjoyment out of that, honestly.
Surprising people. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. And, and I want to dig into that a little bit more, because that was one of the questions that I had coming into the conversations. Like, Amanda knows a lot about a lot of different things. I wonder exactly kind of what her title is, her role is exactly, because just even in our little interactions that we've had over time, you have kind of knowledge and understanding of land use issues and for example, and that's not all that common either. And so it doesn't surprise me that sounds like you've kind of touched each part of the process over. How many years has it been that you've been with Interstate?
I've been in Interstate almost 6 years, so it'll be July. But I did start out, I know, it's not very long.
That's a superstar. No, that doesn't surprise me.
But I did work for a heavy civil company, construction company here in the area, and learned a lot about, for instance, like you're saying, the land use. I'm also very passionate about providing housing for our kids that are coming up and our future workforce. So that's really where I've maybe my interest has been. So that's kind of, and really we have kind of like what Josh's previous podcast, when he had talked about different subcontractors. We have fabulous people in the industry that if you have a question, SUHBA really provides a great membership directory, inventory, of people that will and are willing to answer any questions that you have. I've had the opportunity to talk to many builders, that fellow parade builders. This is what we're looking at, and and for instance, like Dennis Miller called me the other day and said, "Hey, where did you get that cool window that you had in your parade?" But that's what SUHBA really does, is we have this. We're not in competition. There's enough home buyers to go around, and we have this awesome network that really supports each other, and that's where I've learned most of my things that I've had the opportunity to do. So good people. That's how
Yeah.
you know things, and you dare to have the, ask the questions. I think that's.
Yeah, I hear that from other builders too. That one of the things they really love about SUHBA is on some level there may be some level of competition, but it never really becomes this that dynamic, this really cutthroat dynamic. That it's much more of a helpful culture and a willingness to share ideas, and everybody really does love to go around to everyone else's homes and get great ideas, and we're all just kind of leveling up together in a way, right? It's a healthy
really
competition
so.
in that way.
It is, yeah, and I really think SUHBA does give us that opportunity, right? So we get parade points for being in committees, but also those committees give us the opportunity to rub shoulders with these people, to really spend not so much professional time, but advocacy time. I guess that might be a good word to say. And so you really do get to, they become your friends, and so I think that's another benefit of SUHBA, is you do get this network of a community, not so much of, well, this guy does block walls or this guy does this, it's just, you meet friends.
Yeah. It's networking, I guess, but you don't, it happens so organically, you don't even really think of it in those terms. At least doesn't feel that way to me. Like you said, you just are getting to know people and they become your friends and allies over time. Curious, is there a particular part of your job, either now or in the past, that you've particularly liked? It seems like you've kind of touched each part of it, and starting out kind of through the design side, and then even before that, kind of the heavy construction side of life. So what do you think? Is there a favorite part of it, or?
Yes, absolutely. It's always fun to design parade homes because your budget is a little bit more fluffier, and so that's always really fun. And I think everybody's going to say that. The design part of building is so fun. I'm really good at the financing part, just because I'm organized. And so there's been times in my timeline at Interstate that I've kind of had to dial down my tasks, and what are my tasks? And one time I, really just had to look in the mirror. We're not at that point now, and say, I'm better at this. I need to do this, and pass on the fun part, which was really sad. But
that's mature, though.
Oh gosh, it was so hard. But we had, the world's changed, and so we don't have a need for that position. So I do get to still do the design parts, and so that's really fun. And we've got great suppliers. Oh my gosh, the same thing, with them. They're members of SUHBA, and they've got great ideas. And I can't say that I can take full credit for any of the cool things that we put in our parade homes, just because we have such great people that I get the opportunity to work with. Even like I call my plumber. We work with Sunland Plumbing, and I call Brian quite often and be like, oh, what do you think about this? And he always talks me out of my dumb ideas because sometimes I do get them, and he's like, don't do that. That's going to be way too expensive. And so I really appreciate, I get that kind of feedback from all of our subs. It's great.
No, that's really cool. And again, pretty mature to be able to say, well, I need to do this, even though this is more fun. That's growth. So that's a good lesson in there too. So kind of backing up a little bit. So tell me more about what it's like to have questions directed past you to the men in the room, and to navigate male-coded world.
Yeah, so that it is a difficult one that I get a lot of enjoyment from, a lot of value. Because I do enjoy, hey, girls can do this too. There is nothing better than going to like the Career Tech High School and seeing all these girls that are interested in construction. I went to the IBS show in Las Vegas, and the Professional Women in Building had a little get together, and there were these two cute girls that were, I think they were from Weber State University is where they were coming from, but they were getting their construction management degree, and they were so excited to be in construction, and it makes me so excited. Yeah. We kind of asked a little bit earlier about the Professional Women in Building, the PWB of Utah. They're kind of trying to start down here. I've just kind of been a member, not really done anything to get it going or anything down here, but they did a home in the Utah Valley Parade of Homes, I believe is which parade of home it was. It was called The House That She Built. Okay. And they kind of marketed, I think it took them, I'm not even going to say, but I followed my friend Natalie Miles, was the president of the PWB. I grew up with her in Hurricane, and that's kind of how I got my eyes on the project and got really interested in that. I had contacted Mari a couple of years ago and said, "Hey, I want to do this." Come to find out, it's much more intensive, than what you think it's going to be. But I think they took 3 years to build the home. They got women to come and only women to work on the home. Wow. They came from all over the United States. Most of them donated their time. So when they were able to sell the home, all that money went to scholarships for girls that are in the construction industry.
That is awesome.
Yeah, it's really cool. And then the IBS show in Vegas, they had this little corner cut out in their, I guess, gift shop is what you would say, because there's people from all over the world that come to that building show that had their books and little toys and little girl things. So, and I know that they also spend some of that money that they made from the home to go around to schools, such as Career Tech or different high schools or elementary schools, to get girls excited in the construction industry, and hopefully also get boys and just, excited about the being in construction, because we need them.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and it's kind of similar to your point about the dynamic within SUHBA. We need great people. It doesn't matter male or female, and women are dynamite at it. Candidly, I mean, so I think it'd be great to see more women in the industry. So, I think that's exciting. Do you feel like you're seeing a little bit more of an uptick in that, in interest in that?
Definitely. And going back to your point about being a woman in the male's world, right? It took me a minute to get my foot in the door for my subcontractors to be like, "Oh, she's the one that's going to tell me if I'm doing this or not, or where the direction is coming from," which is great, but it did take a minute, and with the support of, Neil and Kelly and the organization that I belong to, with Interstate Homes, they also empowered me with that. And they, if somebody came to them, they're like, "Hey, you've got to go ask Amanda. She's the one that's going to know." And I think that support really created the opportunity for me to be valuable in the organization. Women in construction, there's so many, like you said, and it's growing more and more. We've got subcontractors who do basically all the things now that have women in the organization. We have Holloman Siding. One time they had a gal that was doing their installation, for the gutters and the metal, and man, she busted them out just as much as anybody would do, probably even because she just worked so hard. I think sometimes that's the case also. Yeah. Women, we feel like we've got something to prove, in this industry that's predominantly male. And so sometimes we work a little bit harder. Yeah. And so then kind of get that, everybody kind of says that, "Oh, well, they're going to work harder," and so you kind of get a little bit farther that way. Going back to your other question too, it's just been so valuable to be, in the construction world, and I think sometimes being a woman, people don't think that anything about it, but so they kind of dumb down things, when they're explaining. Yeah. But that was really beneficial for me when I first started. Yeah. So I've learned, okay, well, but why do you do that? You do it this way, but why? And so I think they're a little bit more patient with those kind of questions, to where I really did have the opportunity to learn step by step the reason for those steps, that they do it so well. And I think that's a little bit harder sometimes for men to do that, because they don't get that same patience. They're like, "Well, why do you not know how to do it the better way?" No. And so I think that we've also got an advantage as women to do that. And sometimes women are stubborn, especially myself. And we're like, well, but I understand that you are doing it that way, but why are you doing it? Let's do it this way. And I think that's also different ideas presented by a new woman in the construction industry is a little bit more accepted, because they're like, "Oh, well, maybe." But if
reconsider it.
If a man did that, I don't think that it would quite be as received as well.
That's interesting. Yeah, I think you've hit on a few interesting kind of challenges and maybe some hidden strengths. And I think it does seem to me that you've got to, and this I think goes across the board. It's kind of a tricky thing when you're new. is you have to be willing to ask the question that makes you look dumb, right?
Yeah.
And so I think the willingness to do that and just say, hey, I don't understand this, or even just the why, pushing back and saying, okay, I understand that's how you're doing it, but why? That's good advice for anybody.
True, right.
And so yeah, I think it's to your credit that you've taken that approach. So, and it sounds like one thing I also heard that's really helpful is if you have someone supporting you, and versus undermining you, so that as you build these relationships over time, that you're off on the right foot and not being undermined, but instead supported in terms of your authority and ability to make the calls. Are there any other maybe obvious or not so obvious challenges, do you think, that you face as a woman in construction?
Yeah, another challenge is sometimes I get stuck in the office. Because women are supposed to be doing office work, and that's my personal problem, obviously. But going out into the field, sometimes people don't know who you are, and they just assume that you don't know what you're doing, or you're not checking on things, or they're not really paying attention. They haven't been told who you are or introduced, and so you don't get a lot of, for instance, a tile installer. Hey, dude, that's not where that's supposed to go. That's not how you're supposed to do that. And they're like, who are you? Don't tell me what to do. Did I do the wrong tile? You have to go up, all my other people. So that's quite a challenge. Also, I think that people hold back information from me because they think, well, she doesn't need to know. She doesn't need to know. So I'm not going to waste my time kind of explaining it to her. And building those relationships. I've had the opportunity to really come into the industry here in Southern Utah when it was kind of ramping up for a crazy time. And so I've had the opportunity to work with a lot of new subcontractors, and they were also new. And so we've kind of grown together, or they've given me the patience and the leeway to grow with them as they've come into the Southern Utah market. And I feel like I've had a really unique opportunity, just being a part of Interstate Homes, which is also backed by a huge organization that's been there around forever. Everybody knows their name. So that's been really beneficial. Being a member of SUHBA, we have something really unique here in Southern Utah, and I can't tell you how many times people come through my parade homes, and that's what they tell me. We come here every year because you guys have the best parade, or you're always willing to talk about, how you've done it, and we want to learn how to do this, and it's really, we're really lucky. I feel very fortunate to be here in Southern Utah and be able to do this. And even, all the stuff that we're talking about, the tariffs, or the water shortage, or, oh my goodness, I don't know if you guys talk or follow any of the rhetoric about fellow community members that do not want any more growth.
Yeah.
It's crazy to me. And I wish that those community members would just turn around, one person, and in their circle of life, and that one person would be out of a job if building stopped. Yeah. Or even, I hear a lot of, well, the builders are greedy, and that's why the house prices are so much. And I've even heard that from like our planning and zoning in our little town. And actually it was not a very fun conversation. He was very rude. But I would love to show them my budget sheets. Hey, I will bring out all my invoices. Let me show you exactly how much things cost now. And I know that our subcontractors are like that. Hey, I'm not gouging you. I'm not making millions off of you. Prices are just crazy. And I wish more people understood that. Southern Utah, land is expensive. And I want so bad to build housing that is affordable and makes sense. And then we get slapped with another double impact fee. Here we're going to do this again. Okay, well, do you want low income, or do you want cost-effective homes built, or do you want this for whatever you're saying that you need it for? So.
No, it's really true. You touched on a lot of really great stuff there. I think the inputs to construction have gone up the same way as everything else, and so I'll sometimes pull out the graph. I mean, you can show people the data, and I don't know how much that sinks in or not, but yeah, the inflation that we saw in our hamburger and in our eggs and everything else, we've seen on every piece of the construction part of it. And so, yeah, that the margins are no better than they ever were. But yeah, I mean, but you're exactly right. I don't know any builders that don't want to deliver the most value that they can, and that kind of goes for any niche. Even the highest end parade homes are still trying to deliver value.
Right.
But yeah, for our kids and for the bulk of the market, we're squeezing every part of the every line item as best we can to make things work. Yeah, and it's tough. It's I think most of us would love to go back to the sort of 2018, 2019 dynamic where things were not affordable for everyone, but so much more affordable than the situation we have since then. But
absolutely.
Yeah, so maybe we shift to just kind of the fun topic for a minute. So you alluded earlier to the first parade home that you really kind of got to captain. Tell me a little bit about that experience.
Well, and most people say, one of my unique opportunities that I have is we have our own subdivisions. So Interstate Rock Products, they own some land, in Washington County, particularly the one I'm going to talk about is in Lavurican. So they had their old pit, their aggregate pit, where they got all the stuff they needed out of that, and then they built us a subdivision. And so we had our own land, and we were able to build a really fun little home in our subdivision in Cottonwood Hollow, whereas I actually live now. So It is a really pretty, I do love that little area. But it was so great to be able to everything, right? So we had some input on where the lots were going to be, what kind of lots, because a lot of time, Southern Utah has lots of hills, so we end up with potential walkout lots, and those are so hard to sell, and so hard to decide what you're going to do. And so having the opportunity to be able to say, okay, you're giving us way too many walkouts, we've got to dial that down, and we need some more slab on grades, or if you turn this lot or make this just a little bit different, look at these views that you get out, if you do a house straight on, and kind of think about it that way. I think that our partnership or our parent corporation, that kind of communication and eyes that are looking through at the dirt that we're moving gives us a unique opportunity to really make those lots the best that we can.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so this home that we were able to build, we had a new trust company here in town that really, they are fabulous, but we're able to, this is what, we've got this piece of dirt, what's the best that we can get out of our bang? At the same time, we want to make sure that this home fits within this livable neighborhood that we know that is going to be filled with families. The piece of dirt right behind it is a future site for an elementary school. So we want this to be within the price range and the look of a growing family subdivision. And that's also
very cool.
Yeah, it's really fun to be able to do that, because really I got to design a home basically for me, where I'm at, and where my kids are going to live and where my grandkids are going to grow up. And so we were able to do that. And, where's everybody going to spend time? Well, if you've got aging kids or adult kids that now are bringing grandkids in your home, everybody wants to, you're eating. That's why they're coming to visit. They want you to feed them, right? And so you have to have somewhere to sit to watch football on Sunday and eat a good meal together. And so the big open living spaces, I think, was one of my favorite things that has became a concept as I've been in the building industry. So that, of course, and oh my goodness, the rocks that you get to pick from countertops. So Countertop Source always says, okay, Marian, what do you have for me this year? Because I've literally designed 2 homes around with all the colors and stuff around 2 different countertops there. So
cool.
That's where I start, probably because I pick up rocks everywhere I go. But that's where I like to start, is give me a good countertop, and then we can go from there. We've had the chance to, or I guess I have had the chance to design a home around cabinets, and okay, this is the feel of what we're looking for, and how do we anticipate that. And I've also got some really good friends. Laura Penrod used to work for Boulevard Homes, and now she's her own general contractor, and she's been a great resource to really, okay, well, feel it, tell me how this feels. What kind of feel are you going for? And that was a new thing that because I didn't go to college, to get a design degree or anything like that. It's just kind of had the opportunity to, okay, this is what we're doing. And I jumped in when we were building more production homes. And so it was interesting I almost got schooled by the people who were buying homes from me, as we did selection meetings, and they kind of designed how they wanted their home to feel. And so, yeah, I don't know. I feel like everything, all the different aspects of building, from moving the dirt to really designing what's going to go on that dirt, and how you do the retaining or the view or the outside and the windows to capture that view, or what's this home going to hold? Yeah. And that's really, I feel, I want to build a home. I'm not going to build a house. Who's going to live here? Who's going to buy this home?
That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah. And we have a subdivision in Hurricane that we're almost built out now, and we knew that it was going to be older retirees coming that would most likely bring their money with them, that they were able to sell their home that they raised their kids in. What do they want? They want something unique. They want something that's beautiful with a little bit of area for their kids to stay for a minute and then leave.
Yeah. No, I love that. No, I love that. It just comes through that, you're really designing it not as an expression of your ego, but as a reflection of how are folks going to live? How is this going to become a home versus just a house? And I love that, starting with the importance of the gathering space and the signature feature being a counter, and then building out from there. I love that. And it is really cool to be able to start even from the subdivision, so that you're designing the lots and the views and the angles and everything, customizing it in at that step. The other thing you're touching on that kind of gets into some of the advocacy stuff that we talk about all the time is choice. We're for housing abundance and for housing choice. And, we, especially through kind of the zoning process, as you end up getting kind of siloed into only a few different types of homes. Right. They're a great type of home, but they only serve a portion of our community. And I think our position at SUHBA has been that part of the answer to the affordability issue is to better tailor the homes to the needs of the people who are going to live in them, and taking that into account all the way from the lot size and configuration to the homes themselves. So I think that's a great testament to that part of our advocacy efforts as well. Yeah.
Well, and another spot that I kind of have been talking about is the service industry, right? And so I think ADUs or rooms, casitas, that you can build onto the home that will fit within the city's rules and regulations that they've created for these situations. But we need those
desperately.
Yeah, and like the Zion workers, the people who work in Zion National Park, where do they live? Yeah. And there's millions and millions of people who visit there every day, and all the people who work in the restaurants, who work at the hotels. Where do those people live? Are they traveling 2 hours to be able to go up there and work all day? That's just let's design, or let's approve. Municipalities, let's approve projects that might have a pretty home in the front, but a great ADU in the back that people who actually work here can live in and feel like they have a home, not just an apartment that they're stuck in 5 stories up or something,
Yeah, I have these stats in my head because I was working on this the other day. I'm not as weird as this is going to come across. No, it's coincidence, but I was looking at the demographics for Washington County the other day, and only 23 of our households are nuclear families, meaning 2 parents with kids at home. Oh, interesting. So,
23%?
Yeah.
You're kidding me.
So 77% are made up. So they're 29% singles. So there's more singles, people living alone, than there are families, which you wouldn't necessarily think.
That is astounding.
And then when you add it, then the other categories are couples with no kids at home, so you're retired folks, that example, or empty nesters of any, not necessarily retired, but just empty nesters. And then single parent households are another like 4%. So those three categories make up 77%. And so to your point, the service workers that are young, single, or they're a young couple that don't have kids yet, they have different housing needs and their budgets are different. Mm-hmm. And to be sure, there's certainly plenty of people that are either single or just a couple that have a budget for more. But boy, we ought to give people the opportunity to opt into the kind of housing that really serves their needs.
Yeah. I mean, how many people, I'm in the age, where I've got my adult children and then my grandkids, that it would have been so nice, for me to have the option to have a great little house in my backyard, that my kids could maybe start a family or just get an egg underneath of them. Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's different reasons to have ADUs. Not all
mm-hmm.
of us want these great big college parties, with the short-term rentals. That's not what we're doing.
Well, and I think that's the other thing that's evolving with these different sort of family and non-family housing arrangements is kind of the multi-generational element to
mm-hmm.
it, right? So you may have an adult child or even a married adult child that still needs a place to shelter, or on the other end of it, an elderly parent that right. It's a great place to house them so they can still have a degree of dignity and independence, but still kind of be under your wing a little bit more, right?
To have some more eyes on them. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I could talk housing all day with you, Amanda, but there's been a great chat, and kind of on the other thing I would thank you for is getting more involved in some of the advocacy stuff. You're a wonderful addition to that group that is working in that space, and have a great demeanor and tons of great knowledge and experience. So personally, I'm really happy on that side of it as well. So,
I appreciate it. Thank you.
And again, thanks again for chatting with me today.
Thank you, Stacy. Appreciate the time.
So that's another episode of The Housing Advocate. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you in the next one.